For Phil and Lynn McLean, a new life in West Africa seemed like paradise. But when they fell victim to an elaborate con, their world fell apart. Phil was beaten, arrested, became a fugitive, then a prisoner.
I was one kick away from possibly being killed.
The man I love, I may never see again.
I've been fishing from the Port of Wayne for most of life, and I could see the industry collapsing, declining fast.
I never really liked Weymouth much because it was really very quiet.
I was having a bad time in my relationship, to the point where divorce was inevitable.
I'd had a bad marriage. It broke down. Then I met Phil. It was love at first sight, for me anyway.
To be honest with you, it didn't take too long to fall in love with her.
Phil wanted to make a change in direction as much as I did.
I was originally born in Rhodesia, spent the first part of my life there. I think it's fair to say that I had a yearning to go back.
I liked Africa. I was always interested in Africa when I was younger. Phil sold his house, and we sold the fishing vessel that we had in the Weymouth Harbour.
When we seen that go, we knew that was the beginning of a new start for us.
We were off. I was happy, just to get away from everything.
And we decided the place we wanted to go to make the start was Africa.
"18 years ago, Phil and Lynn arrived in Gambia with their life savings, full of hope for the future.
When we first arrived in Gambia, we immediately felt at home and, you know, fell in love with the place.
The people were so welcoming, kind, warm.
Popular with tourists and travelers, Gambia seemed the perfect place to pursue their dream of running a motel together.
One of our good friends in Gambia knew he was on the lookout for some sort of business and pointed out a motel, which is going to be coming up for lease.
It was totally run down. The paint was falling off the walls. There wasn't a proper kitchen.
I think there was 4 tables, dust on the floor when the barman slumped over the bar asleep.
There were people sleeping outside in hammocks on the front, clothes on the floor. But I've got a good imagination. I could see it in about 2 minutes. That would be perfect. Although we knew there was a lot of money to be spent.
I thought we could really make something of this. We were probably about to use the best part of our life savings. I think friends, family thought we were a tad crazy taking on this project, especially investing into a country we didn't know. But then I felt we wanted to be ourselves, do what we wanted to do. It did cost more than we thought. In the end, I think we close to £70,000 spent on the place.
As soon as we opened the doors, the customers just came from nowhere. They were coming from 20 kilometres away. They were coming from the city. It was swinging. It was a really happy evening.
We felt we'd become part of the community. You know, we felt at home.
For the next few weeks, the motel flourished.
This guy walked into the bar, staggered into the bar. I could clearly see he wasn't well, and my immediate thoughts were to help him. He introduced himself as Nick. He seemed quite a nice chap. He said, "I'd like a cup of tea if you don't mind."
He'd explained that he lost his job. He'd been living on the streets for the last couple of 3 days. He wasn't well.
So I offered him a room, which we had an empty room.
I think Lynn was Nick's saviour, basically doing a nursing job, really, and she looked after him well.
After a few days, he was better. He was up and about on his feet. He made himself very useful. He was helping around the place.
Nipping behind the bar and doing the job when the barman had gone elsewhere. He just fitted in.
Nick and Phil got on really well. I was quite happy for that because Phil hadn't actually met many people. And it was great, actually, to have Nick about.
We both agreed he was a good asset for the business.
Nick, I swear, was a magician.
He was very good at card tricks. Excellent.
But he always liked to do it for money. He'd always have a bet.
He could fool anybody, anytime. You could bet on it. You'd never win against Nick.
But the locals loved it.
He could keep customers amused all day long.
We had another guy come in the bar. His name was John.
When he first started drinking in the bar, you couldn't help noticing because we're in a predominantly Muslim country and he used to drink Guinness.
He was a quiet guy. He'd sit there on his own.
But he became a regular customer and blended in after a while, and he seemed a very nice chap.
John and Nick seemed to know each other. They'd go through to the back rooms, out of earshot, I always thought. Sometimes I picked up on a couple of sort of kind of strange conversations. Unusual things about money, and quite vast amounts of money. They would talk millions. When I would go in, they would stop talking. Something wasn't ringing right to me.
Lynn said, "You're spending too much time with this John." And it seemed a bit shady, she said. My answer to that was, perhaps you're being a little paranoid.
Just don't worry about it, he said. Nick's fine, don't worry about him.
Why should I be suspicious? They hadn't done anything wrong. But Lynn's intuition told her differently. Should have listened.
Lynn and Phil McLean's Gambian motel was flourishing. They were planning a trip back to the UK, and their friend Nick had a proposition.
Nick approached me and just asked me as simple as you might ask someone when they're going down a shop. Do you mind me doing me a favour? Nick was asking the favour on behalf of John. I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "Well, if you're up in London, a couple of stones," he said, "worth, you know, £200-300. You can drop into a friend of mine there, a jeweller. If you bring the money back, he said, I can help repay you for all you've done." He described them, if I remember rightly, as a couple of mellers, which are very small diamonds. I said, "Oh," I said, "all right." I said, "Well, when we do go back," "Yeah, no problem."
Taking Nick's precious stones with them, Lynn and Phil set off back to Britain, thinking they were leaving the motel in safe hands. But when they got back, Nick's stones turned out to be not so precious after all.
Around about the second week I was up in London, I took him the address Nick had given, spoke to the guy in there. He took one look at him and said, "Well, they're topaz." And he said, £50, he said, "if you're lucky." I said, well, I told her small diamonds. He said, no. He said, topaz. He said, no, I don't deal in topaz. He said, so I'm not going to buy them. And I thought nothing of it and walked out. Carried on what I was doing in London and went back to Weymouth.
We had a phone call from a friend which owned a nightclub just down the road from us in the Gambia.
She said, there's trouble at the motel. I think you need to make your way back and sort it out.
So we decided that Phil would go back a couple of days before me and that I would stay in the UK and finish off what business had to be finished.
I couldn't imagine what could have gone wrong. As I drew up against the motel, everything looked fairly normal. I could clearly see that the place had been ransacked, locks had been broken, doors had been broken open. I think practically everything had gone. The whole caboose. Even lampshades were missing. Furniture, curtains, tables, chairs, drinks, food. I went into our office. That was bare. I can remember my stomach churning over, just wondering the reason why. When I turned round and saw John approaching me, John was shouting, "Where's my diamonds? Where's my money? You stole my diamonds." I said, "I haven't stolen your diamonds. I still have your diamonds." I said, "They're not diamonds, they're topaz."
Those are not my diamonds. I want my diamonds.
And I threw a question. I said, "You're not responsible for all these things missing, are you?" He said, "It's all mine." He said, "Until you pay me," he said, "you don't get them back." I said, "Pay you what?" He said, $4 million. That's £250,000. I thought the guy must be crazy. And then a couple of henchmen laid into me and beat me to the floor and kicked me. And kicked me hard, too.
I want my diamonds.
My first thoughts were to go to the local police station and try and get him arrested. And that's where I went. Very, very angry. I said, "You know, we got the motel around the corner. I've been robbed, broken into, all the things are gone." I explained that it seemed that John was responsible for stealing all the things. And it was almost like a piece of magic that appeared from nowhere. John walked out of the room and he was laughing. And that put a shiver up my backbone.
That's him. That's the man.
And that's when I figured out, this has all been planned. I got pushed into the cell. The stench was terrible. There was one bucket between 8 people, which was overflowing. No seats, no benches. I remember thinking to myself, I've been stitched up. What do they want? Which was pretty apparent, of course. Money. It was a game they were going to be playing. And I was thinking to myself, I'd have to prepare myself for the morning. But the only thing is I didn't get any sleep. The cell was undone. And they said to me, "We're taking you into the CID room. You will get your chance to explain there." I felt quite encouraged that anybody who's slightly level-headed, certainly in the CID department, would understand what's happened. So I had a little bit of encouragement.
Oh, B! Take a seat, my friend. Take a seat.
He had a smile. First thing he said, "Ah, Mr. Phillips," he said, "what are you doing here? Why have they brought you here? Why don't you tell me all about it?" Made me feel quite good. And every time I said something, "Oh, dear," he said, "Oh, really?" You know. "Oh, no," you know. And he had in his hand a piece of paper. which she asked me to look at. And it was a written statement. He said, all I want you to do is read this. He said, and sign it. I read it, and to much of my amazement, it was a confession of a charge of stealing 2 diamonds. And I said, what the hell do you think you're doing? I tore it up in front of him. He just slammed in like a bird on his prey.
You will sign it! You will sign it!
So he turned from Mr. Nice Guy straight away to Mr. Nasty. And I can't explain how nasty he was with it. He said, this is a serious charge. He said, we're talking 4 million Delasses. He said, it's my job to get the truth out of you. So I'm going to keep you in the station till I get the truth.
Phil hadn't phoned me that day to tell me that he had arrived safely. I was beginning to get worried. Then another day went by, and I was getting pretty concerned now.
I managed to sleep just maybe the odd 10 minutes, 15 minutes max, whilst the officers were out the room. But 10 minutes later, time for questioning again. Various ways they woke me. Usually a hard slam with a foot on the chair. Sometimes they're pushing my head up, slap on the back. Mr. Phillip, wake up. Time for questioning. During that period, I must have been questioned 50, 60 times. Over the period of 6 days, same routine. Asked me to make a statement, refused to make a statement.
I understand the time, but you have to sign here.
I never thought once of signing. Not at all. There's a lot of people which would have signed anything just to get out of there.
Okay. We'll be back.
I knew if I did that, there's worse to come, not better.
The phone rang, I answered it, and there was a strange voice on the end. Said that Phil was locked up in the police station and I wasn't to travel to the Gambia because it was too dangerous. I ran to the bathroom and I was absolutely violently sick. And being on my own was really difficult as well. I felt quite helpless.
And for all she knew, I could be dead.
Wake up, Mr. Phillip. Wake up, wake up. Wake up, Mr. Phillip. Wake up. Time to wake up. Wake up, wake up, Phillip. Phillip, it's me. It's me, your lawyer.
Lynn, I think, made other contacts and phoned our lawyer. He said, you know what serious trouble you're in, don't you? You could get 10 years in prison for this. Maybe I'm the only person which can help you. But like all things, you have to pay. And of course, I was carrying cash, and the police hadn't taken anything from me. And I made a payment to him of 7,500 Delasses in order to seek for my release or bail. He said, don't worry, he said, this time tomorrow, he said, you'll be free. And he disappeared.
Wake up! Wake up, Phillip! Wake up!
I think it was on the 4th or 5th day, I was taken outside onto the steps at the police station to be able to talk to my lawyer. And the lawyer said, Mr. Phillip, I've got bad news for you. He said, well, the truth is, I'm not acting on behalf of John now. He's paid me to act against you. I was speechless. Then I said to him, can I have my money back, please? The answer's no. Not only did he double-cross me, he stole the money. And that was our lawyer.
After 6 days in police custody and exhausted after very little sleep, Phil was bundled off to court.
At the magistrate's court, There was a variety of witnesses which appeared. There was John, of course, which is the complainant, and one of the main witnesses was Nick. I was officially being charged in court with the theft of 2 diamonds to the value of $4 million, £250,000. The magistrate asked John to describe these diamonds, and his description of the diamonds was, they're as big as an egg. They were saying that I personally tested these diamonds and agreed with them they were worth $4 million. If I didn't bring him the $4 million, I would let him cut my throat. It seemed that the magistrate appeared to believe him. When Nick came to court, I didn't know what to expect. This was the man which Lynn and I had rescued, even saved his life. He's the man which was our best friend. He's the man we trusted. He told a pack of lies, a complete pack of lies. Nick said that I'd switched the diamonds and replaced them with something completely different. I just knew there and then that he was part of the conspiracy. I felt about Nick a total betrayal of what I classified only months earlier as being one of our best friends.
Phil.